Welcome to Bible Time with Aunt Kat. We talk about real people we read about in God's Word, the Bible. And everything in the Bible is true because God cannot lie. I know I say this every time, but it's so important that we realize these people really lived and these events really happened. Have you ever been really brave, maybe standing on a high diving board, and someone yelled, "Don't look down"? And what do? You look down. And what happens when you do look down? You get scared, don't you? Suddenly what seemed easy feels impossible. Well, that's exactly what happened to one of Jesus' disciples one stormy night. The disciples were in a boat on the Sea of Galilee. It was dark, really dark, and the wind was strong. The waves were crashing against the sides of the boat, but Jesus wasn't with them. He had gone up to the mountain to pray. Then, in the middle of the night, someone or something started walking toward them on top of the water. They were terrified. "It's a ghost!" they yelled. But it wasn't a ghost. It was Jesus. He called out, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." Then bold Peter said, "Lord, if it is really you, tell me to come to you on the water." And Jesus said just one word, "Come." So Peter climbed out of the boat. He stepped out of the boat and he actually walked on top of the water. Can you imagine? His eyes were on Jesus and his heart was full of courage. But then he noticed the waves. He felt the wind blowing hard and he looked down. And the moment he took his eyes off Jesus, he began to sink. Immediately, he said, "Lord, save me," he cried. And immediately, Jesus reached out his hand to him and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" When they climbed back into the boat, the wind stopped. And everyone in the boat said, "Truly, you are the Son of God." Now, let me show you something. Let's pretend that this bowl represents Jesus. And this bowl represents our fear. And this is, if we keep our eyes on Jesus, and this is when we let worry and fear take over. So, if we keep our eyes on Jesus, even when things get a little bit stormy, see, we can hit that over and over, can't we? But what happens when we take our eyes off Jesus and we start thinking about all the things we're worried about, like our fear of the dark and our fear of storms and our fear of failure, all of those things we worry about. See, if I look at my fear instead of at Jesus, I can't hit it. I can't hit it. Because that's what happens when we take our eyes off of Jesus, like Peter did, and start looking at our fears. But if we toss them, if we keep our eyes on Jesus, see, that's what happens. If we give our fears over to Jesus, we don't have anything to worry about, do we? No matter how stormy life gets, He will help us, no matter what our worries are. When we focus on Him, when we trust Him instead. Peter started strong, didn't he? And he had courage and faith, but fear took over when he looked away. And we can be the same way. We can focus on Jesus and we can be unafraid and trust Him to help us. But when we focus on our problems or the waves like Peter did, we forget that Jesus is right there. And we let worry and fear overtake us. So, how can we let Jesus help us when we are afraid? He's not going to reach out His hand and pull us into the boat like He did Peter. What can He do? Well, one way is by reading and learning scriptures that will help us when we're scared and worried. We've learned quite a few of them in other videos, in our YouTube videos, our Bible Time with Aunt Kat, and we're going to learn another one here in just a couple of moments. And another way is to go to God in prayer and tell Him about your worries and your fears. He is always ready to listen and to comfort us and to give us peace. So, the next time fear takes over, remember the lesson Peter learned. When you start to sink, don't look down. Look to Jesus instead. So, I told you we were going to learn a new verse that would help us when we're scared or worried. And here it is. It's 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. And it's short, so we're going to go through and sing it twice without stopping. And it's to the tune of Roll the Gospel Chariot, which is very easy, and I'm sure most of you know. Let me get a drink. Okay. This is the English Standard Version. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. Let's do that again. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. One more time. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. That means that God didn't make us to be afraid, but to have a spirit of power or courage when we face things, and a love for God and self-control, which helps us to keep from giving in to our fears. So, the Bible verses that we used today were from Matthew 14, verses 22 through 33, and 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. Join us next week for another Bible time with Aunt Kat, and don't forget to make your own Bible time every day.